warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and the mercy and blessings of Allah be with you all. Thank you for joining me for this live post. In this post, I want to read and comment upon Mark chapter 12, the chapter 12 of Mark's Gospel. In my lead up to this, in a few minutes ago, I posted a note saying that I'll be commenting on Mark chapter 11, but I already did that on the previous post. So today, it's Mark chapter 12. So let's get started with this. Mark chapter 12. I will pull up here the Bible Hub, Gospel according to Mark chapter 12 in the New International Version. So let's read it and see what interesting information it contains for us. I see that Muhammad Ali has shared my stream. Thank you for that, Brother Muhammad Ali. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, bless you, and all of the people around you. So let me go then to Mark's chapter 12. First, I read the section entitled The Parable of the Tenants. Let's start with verse number 1. It goes all the way to verse number 12. 1. Jesus began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it, dug a pit for the winepress, and built a watchtower. Then he rented the vineyard to some farmers and moved to another place. At harvest time, he sent a servant to the tenants to collect from them some of the fruits of the vineyard. But they seized him, beat him, and sent him away empty-handed. Then he sent another servant to them. They struck this man on the head and treated him shamefully. He sent still another, and that one they killed. He sent many others, but some of them they beat, others they killed. He had one left to send, a son, whom he loved. He sent him last of all, saying, "They will respect my son." But the tenants said to one another, "This is the heir. Come, let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they took him and killed him and threw him out of the vineyard. What then would the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. Haven't you read this passage of scripture? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is miraculous in our eyes. Then the chief priests and the teachers of the law and the elders looked for a way to arrest him because they knew that he had spoken the parable against them, but they were afraid of the crowd. So they left him and went away. Now this is an interesting passage. But this parable goes to show, let me recap it in brief. So this man owns the vineyard. He goes away, but he has rented it out to his tenants. Now it's rent time, so he sends his servants to collect the rent. The renters, the lessees, they beat the messenger, refuse to pay the rent. The owner sends another messenger. Eventually, they kill this messenger. The owner sends messengers one after another. They're killing the messengers. Some they beat, some they kill. And then eventually, the owner has only one person left to send. That is his son. And he says, "Okay, I love this son, but I'm going to send him because they will respect my son." But the tenant said, "Okay, this is the heir. Let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they took him and killed him and threw him out of the vineyard. So what is the owner going to do? The owner is going to come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. And then Jesus, explaining this parable, cites a passage from the Old Testament in the Psalms, where it says, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes." And so the chief priests and the teachers of the law and the elders looked for a way to arrest Jesus because they knew that he had spoken the parable against them, but they were afraid of the crowd, so they left him and went away. Now, let's think about the explanation of and the application of this parable. So, first of all, let's imagine this man who owns the vineyard, and he sends his servants one after another. Some servants are being beaten, some are being killed. And then he has this one last person to send, who is his son. And he says, okay, you know what? Although I love my son, I'm going to send him because being my son, they're going to respect my son. Now, if you try to think of this situation with God and his messengers, which is the whole point that is, Mark is including this here to convey, well, then it doesn't look good for God. Mark wants to convey that Jesus is the Son of God, whom God has sent finally, in distinction to all of those messengers whom he was sending before. So God was sending prophets and messengers. People were, beating and killing the messengers before. And now God sent his son in the hope that they will respect his son. Well, it's, if we say on the other hand, imagine the Muslim paradigm of saying, okay, God is sending prophets all along, sending prophets one after another, continues to send prophets, sent Jesus, sends the Prophet Muhammad on whom be peace, though knowing that people might react harshly to his prophets. But of course, he will take care of his prophets in the way that he deems best. He will give a reward for his prophets in the life hereafter. So the whole scenario is worth it because the suffering in this world is explainable by the presence of the life hereafter, in which God will make everything right. God will give in adequate recompense to all of his servants who have suffered in his name. But now if you imagine that God has a son and God is saying, okay, all of those people are, I've put all those messengers in danger. Let me put my son into danger too. And then, and then there's the hope that they will respect my son. It's not the hope. It's not the same thing that, okay, let me send my son, since I've sent all the messengers and they have suffered as well. Well, my son, should not be exempted from that. Let me send my son. Of course, it looks cruel that he's going to send his son. But to send his son with the expectation that they're going to respect my son, it doesn't look like a realistic expectation, and it doesn't seem like the wise behavior of a father. After you've seen that so many people are being killed on a particular path, why are you going to send your son there to receive a similar treatment? So that doesn't seem rational. And then the behavior of the tenants as well doesn't seem rational, because look at verse 7. But the tenants said to one another, "This is the heir. Come, let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they took him and killed him and threw him out of the vineyard. Now, why would the tenants say something like this? Like, why would the tenants think, okay, this is the heir, let's kill him, and then we'll have the inheritance, if they know that the owner is still alive? Because obviously they're going to have to deal with the owner, which is what happens in the next verse. Of the parable, verse number 9 says, then what will the owner in the vineyard do? He will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. Now, Jesus is mentioning here something that would have been obvious to his audience, and it would have been obvious to the people who, the tenants in this parable, who should know in advance that, if we kill the heir, the owner is the heir's father is gonna come and deal with us harshly. The owner of the vineyard will soon be, taking revenge for the killing of his son. How could they think that they can kill the son and then get the inheritance automatically like that? It doesn't make any sense. First, they would have to kill the father, and then when the son takes over, then kill the son as well. Then they can perhaps usurp the property. But, so the whole scheme doesn't make any sense. So this whole parable does not really make sense in terms of what it is trying to convey, to show Jesus as being special, as being the Son of God, in contradistinction to the prophets. Now, look at what it says that the owner of the vineyard will do. Well, the owner of the vineyard, according to this parable, will come in and kill the tenants and then give the vineyard to others. Well, this hardly seems to be the comparable to the action of God. God, is that the merciful and compassionate God who will come, kill off one people, give, the inheritance to, or give the property to some others just because they killed his son? And what about in the biblical story where God is said to love the world so much that he gave his only begotten son? So the people who kill his begotten son, he's going to kill them. It doesn't reflect the whole mercy and compassion story. If we take the Muslim paradigm, which says that when the danger is against the prophet or messenger of God, that is when God wipes out those people. It's not because God is vindictive, like after the fact, first to kill the prophet, and then God comes in and then deals with them. God usually protects the prophet, like in the case of Noah, protects the prophet. The others drown in that scenario, but that is just simply the nature of things. God is protecting some, and this punishment that comes is coming and wiping out the others. But at the same time, God is mercifully extending his compassion and his guidance to all. In short, this parable is very strange. It's designed, obviously, to show that Jesus is special as the Son of God, but the whole story, it doesn't look reasonable from the point of view of the owner of the vineyard, from the point of view of the tenants, and the cohesiveness of the whole thing is just elusive. Now, it is interesting that at the end, the chief priests, that's in verse number 12, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders looked for a way to arrest him because they knew that he had spoken a parable against them. But they were afraid of the crowd, so they left him and went away. So this recurring theme of these Jewish leaders, they're trying to arrest Jesus. They want to put him to death. And but they can't do it at the moment because the timing is not right. The people are going to be against them. They're afraid of the crowds and whatever, so they're leaving him alone. But look at the minor issues that prompt them to want to kill Jesus. It's he is just telling them a parable, which is not so very clear. He didn't say, "I am the Son of God." He's just talking about, a story. He's just saying, look at this story. This owner of the vineyard has a son, and then he will send his son, and then people will reject that son. They will kill him, and then the owner of the vineyard will come in and kill those people and give the vineyard to somebody else. And as a result of that, the Jewish elders are spurred to say, let's kill him because he's talking about us. They knew the parable is about them, so they decide to kill him. Like, you see, a lot of this is very interesting. It's a very interesting parable, but it is hard to see how the actors in the story would have acted like this. So we saw the problem with the owner of the vineyard. It's hard to see how he'd have acted like that. We had the problem of the tenants acting like that. It seems hard that the tenants would have acted like that. And now the chief priests and the teachers of the law and the elders, it's hard to see how they would have acted like that as a result of the parable. Now I want to go back to verse number 9, where Jesus apparently quotes the scripture. He quotes actually Psalm 118, where it says, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes." What is interesting is that when you go to that 118th Psalm, which I will do here in a moment, if I go to Psalm 118, I'm just looking it up now at the moment, Psalms 118 in Bible Hub. So reading it in the New International Version, verse number 22 says, "The the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. The Lord has done it this very day. So let us rejoice today and be glad. Lord, save us, grant us success. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. From the house of the Lord we bless you. The Lord is God, and he has made this light shine upon us. With bows in hand, join in the festal procession up to the horns of the altar. You are my God, I will praise you. You are my God, and I will exalt you. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. So in all of this, it is clear that the one that is being praised, he is God. Okay, so that started with verse number 22. But look at verse number 15. In fact, even before that, verse number 8. Even before that, let's start at the top. Give thanks to the Lord. This is verse number 1. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let Israel say, his love endures forever. Let the house of Aaron say, his love endures forever. Let those who fear the Lord say, his love endures forever. When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. Now it's really getting to the substance here of what I want to show. So verse number 5. This is Psalm 118, verse number 5. When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? The Lord is with me. He is my helper. Look in triumph on my enemies. I look in triumph on my enemies. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. All the nations surrounded me, but in the name of the Lord I cut them down. They surrounded me on every side, but in the name of the Lord I cut them down. They swarmed around me like bees, but they were consumed as quickly as burning thorns. In the name of the Lord I cut them down. I was pushed back and I was about to fall, but the Lord helped me. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. Shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous. The Lord's right hand has done mighty things. The Lord's right hand is lifted high. The Lord's right hand has done mighty things. I will not die but live. That's verse number 17. It's a very important verse, I think, because here it is in proximity to the verse number 22, which is cited by Jesus in that parable. And that parable is about somebody, it's intended to show that somebody is being rejected, either a prophet of God or the Son of God. But rather than that person being killed, look at what verse number 17 says. I will not die but live, and will proclaim what the Lord has done. The Lord has chastened me severely, but he has not given me over to death. Open for me the gates of the righteous. I will enter and give thanks to the Lord. This is the gate of the Lord, through which the righteous may enter. I will give you thanks, for you answered me. You have become my salvation. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. The Lord has done it this very day. Let us rejoice today and be glad. That's the end of verse number 24. So, that it's very clear from verse number 17, this servant of God will not die, but will live. And he praises God because God did not give him over to death. Rather, the gates of the righteous will be open for him, and he will enter and give thanks to the Lord. That's the gate of the Lord through which the righteous may enter. And God is the one who saves him. So that in verse number 25, and now it comes in the plural, Lord, save us, Lord, grant us success, and so on. So it is very interesting that the psalm which Jesus cited, Psalm 118, to say the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, is a psalm which shows that the servant of God is being protected by God, and the enemies will fail, the enemies will be cut down, but the servant of God will be saved, and saved from death. He will not die. And when the Quran says, Ma qataluhu wa ma salabuhu, they killed him not, nor did they crucify him, to me, this is resounding the same theme which we find in Psalm 118, that the servant of God is protected and does not actually die. There's one quick further comment to make about this, that you know how it says that the owner of the vineyard will come in, kill the tenants, and then give the vineyard to someone else. And so it says that the sequence is, in verse number 7, they will say, come, let's kill him, and the inheritors will be ours. So verse number 8, so they took him and killed him and threw him out of the vineyard. So you see, first they killed him, and then they threw him out of the vineyard. So there's three actions: took him, killed him, threw him out of the vineyard. And you see the sequence. So took him would be, in the case of Jesus, arrested him, killed him by crucifixion, obviously, and then threw him out of the vineyard. Well, when did they throw him out of the vineyard? If they killed him by means of crucifixion, when did they throw him out of the vineyard? In John's Gospel, it is clear that when they arrested Jesus, they took him outside of the city to have him killed. So they killed him outside of the city. So it's like they threw him out and then they killed him. So what in Mark's Gospel is that they took him, they killed him, and then they threw him out. So is it possible that they put him on the cross and then they thought he was dead, and then they threw him, like, let's say, into a common area to be buried, and then Jesus got up from there and left? So that's an interesting possibility. I'm not exploring it further here. Time does not permit, and that's a whole new topic. But the sequence here is very interesting, and this is why we will see that in some of the revisions of this, maybe in Matthew's Gospel or Luke's Gospel, it's a bit vague in my mind now, that they tried to reverse the sequence. First, they threw him out, and then they killed him. Again, that's a little vague in my mind, but we'll have to look at it in the parallels and see. So I'm going to look it up very quickly. So one quick way of doing that is that we're still in Bible Hub in chapter 18, chapter 12 rather, and then we go here. Let's pick the Berean Standard Bible. It's labeled as BSB at the top panel within Bible Hub. So here we're told that it's in Matthew 21 verses 33 to 46, which we can go to. Matthew 21 verses, okay. So now in Matthew's Gospel, so they seized him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. See, so Matthew chapter 21 verse number 38, Matthew has changed the sequence. So verse number 39 says, so they seized him, threw him out, and then killed him. So then that is the sequence that meshes with John's Gospel, where eventually, Jesus is crucified outside of the city gates. So they threw him out first, meaning threw him out of the city, and then killed him. Whereas in Mark's Gospel, they took him, they killed him, and then threw him out of the city. So if they already killed him on the cross, like when did they throw him out of the city? But if he was not totally dead on the cross, and they threw his apparent corpse outside of the city gates, or far away from the city, and then Jesus got up and left from there, that seems to fit that sequence. So that's an interesting point. Let's see what Luke says about it. So Luke has it in chapter 20 and verse number 15. So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. So here Luke also has they threw him out of the vineyard first, and then they killed him. Right? So they threw him out of the vineyard and they killed him, implying the sequence. I mean, Luke does not say specifically, look, this is definitely the sequence, but that's the natural flow from what he is writing. They threw him out of the vineyard and they killed him. Luke does not mention that they arrested him, that they took him, but that's obviously implied. So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. So the three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Matthew, and John all have it that Jesus goes outside of the city and then he is killed. And then in this parable in Mark's Gospel, it's that they took him, they killed him, and then they threw him out of the vineyard. Interesting. Okay, so now the next section is about paying taxes to Caesar. I'm going to go through a bit more quickly now so that I can get to your questions and comments, and then I will have to go. I have another program coming up later via Zoom with another community very soon. Okay, so later they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to watch. This is verse number 13. Later they sent some of the Pharisees and the Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. Just pay some quick attention here to the room to see that everything looks okay. And I see many of you have joined. Thank you for that. And delighted to see you all. I'll look at your questions and comments later on. And yeah, so coming back to Mark chapter 12, verse number 13, later they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we?" But Jesus knew their hypocrisy. "Why are you trying to trap me?" he asked. "Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." They brought the coin, and he asked them, "Whose image is this and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then Jesus said to them, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." And they were amazed at him. Now, this passage is often misunderstood. Many of our Christian friends quote this passage to say, well, you should just live in peace with the government, pay your taxes, be good citizens, and so on. So we agree with all of that. Live in peace with your leaders, be good citizens, pay your taxes. We agree with all of that. But what if the government is in error? Like what if, for example, if you live in Russia right now and Russia is attacking Ukraine, what are you going to do? There are some people who are opposed to the government. What do we say about them? Well, they're expressing, that's their civil right. They should have the right to voice a complaint against the government and to oppose government policies. And so what if you live in Rome as a Jewish person and Caesar of Rome is coming down harshly on the Jewish people and prohibiting them from practice their religious laws and disrespecting their temple and all of that? So what are you going to do? You just simply pay your taxes to Caesar. And what about this money? You just consider that it belongs to Caesar because it's got Caesar's image on it? Now, that doesn't make any sense because, we have, paper bills, money that has the faces of governors and sometimes past and dead governors. And do we say that this money belongs to them because their face is on it? So the whole logic of what this parable is expounding, is faulty. But let's take it a bit further. Richard Horsley and many other scholars studying the geopolitical situation at the time, they say that Jesus was not here preaching pacifism. Jesus was, in a clever way, making a kind of double entendre here. So the Romans will understand from this that, well, Jesus is just saying, pay your taxes. This coin belongs to Caesar, just give him. And then give to God what is God. So you have a secularization here, a division between church and state. So you can have your church, but let Caesar have the state. And even if they know that he doesn't intend that, there's nothing they can catch him on because Jesus knows, according to the story, that they're trying to trap him, getting him to say something anti-government, and then the government will be against him and they will be rid of him that way. So Jesus is not giving it to them on a platter. So he veils what he wants to say. So what Richard Horsley and others are saying is that the Jews would have understood that nothing belongs to Caesar, everything belongs to God. It's like Muslims saying, Inna al-arda lillah, the earth belongs to God. Kullun lillah, everything belongs to God. So the Jews would have had a similar attitude. I don't propound this attitude to say let's just be at perpetual war with everyone else. and especially with our governments, but it means that the government has to recognize that as well. If there's a Muslim government will recognize that they're governing on behalf of God, and everything they have belongs to God. It's not like we see some of the governors and kings of today amassing vast amounts of wealth off the backs of people. So the Jews would have recognized that the coin, though bearing Caesar's image, does not really belong to Caesar. Everything belongs to God, and so this was not really a call to pay taxes, and that's how they would have understood it anyway. So. Marriage at the resurrection. We come now to verse number 18. Then the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him with a question. Teacher, they said, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife but no children, the man must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now, there were 7 brothers. The first one married and died without leaving any children. The second one married and married the widow, but he also died, leaving no child. It was the same with the third. In fact, none of the 7 left any children. Last of all, the woman died too. At the resurrection, whose wife will she be, since the 7 were married to her? Jesus replied, Are you not in error because you do not know the Scriptures or the power of God? When the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven. Now, about the dead rising, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the account of the burning bush, how God said to him, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. You are badly mistaken. The parable goes to, the whole scenario goes to show that the scholars and the scribes and whoever at the time, the Sadducees, they say there's no resurrection. The Sadducees say there's no resurrection, whereas the scribes and Pharisees, they believe in the resurrection. So the Sadducees now have a question. They're trying to show the ridiculousness of what they consider to be the ridiculousness of the belief in the resurrection. So they're saying, okay, if you have this scenario, this woman was married to all of these men in succession, so whose wife will she be in the life hereafter? So Jesus gives a reply, which is again evasive, and does not deal with the actual problems that could occur when you think about the resurrection from the dead. How will people be in the life hereafter if you promise this and this? Some of the promises seem to be self-contradictory. So nonetheless, we are all promised good things, and we will all have good things, but some of the specifics might be elusive and difficult to work out. So in any case, Jesus does not go through working out all of the difficulties. He doesn't philosophize. He just puts the matter back to them and gives them another puzzle to deal with, and sends them away. Rather than get himself entrapped in this discussion, he turns the discussion around and sends them away probably a little bit more confused than when they came. So he says that in essence, they will be like angels in heaven. They will neither marry nor be given in marriage. And as for the dead rising, now the way he's proving that the dead rise, people have found objectionable. Like it doesn't follow from this. When the Bible says that God, I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because the Scripture says to Moses later on, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, then that means that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob must still be alive when God said this, because God is the God of the living, not the God of the dead. So it's a strange way of arguing, and some Christians, I believe it was Peter Enns, who I saw first pointing this out in the book called The Bible Tells Me So, but I could be mistaken. It could be in some other book and some other author, but I know that Christian scholars have reacted to this by saying that it doesn't make sense to argue it that way. So we all agree, as Muslims and Christians, that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are alive with God. But the statement where God says to Moses, "I am the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob," that is not what proves that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are still alive. Because even if they were dead, the statement statement will still be true. Um, like when somebody says, this is the God of the Hebrew prophets, they're not saying that the Hebrew prophets are still alive. They may be or may not be in the mind of the speaker, but it's not. The two things are not. So one does not follow from the other. And to say that he's not the God of he's not the God of the dead. What does that mean? He's not the God of the dead. He's one God, and he's God of all. He's God of those who are alive, God of those who are dead. Because even those who are dead have the potential to come back to life if God brings them back to life, and He is their God. He's God of everything, living things, dead things, and all of that. But anyhow, this is how the Gospel reports the saying of Jesus, and we leave it at that. We're just trying to understand it and not to be hypercritical about it. We just express the difficulties that are there in the text. And now, the greatest commandment, which I wish that all Muslim du'at, callers to Islam, would absorb and repeat to our Christian friends. One of the teachers of the law, this is verse number 28, one of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, answered Jesus, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That's in verse number 29. So that's the greatest commandment according to Jesus. Remember that verse. Mark chapter 12, verse number 29. And in verse number 30, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Well said, teacher, the man replied. You are right in saying that God is one, and there is no other but Him. To love Him with all your heart, with all your understanding, with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices. When Jesus saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, you are not far from the kingdom of God. And from then on, no one dared ask him any more questions. So you see, in Mark's gospel here, Jesus repeats what is known from the Old Testament as the Shema Israel, from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse number 4, a declaration that their God is one. And what we find is that when this story is repeated in Matthew and Luke, they drop this statement that the Lord our God is one. They only do the love part: love your God, love your neighbor. You can see that over time there was this emphasis on the one God that is somehow dropped from the story as we go from Mark to Matthew and Luke. And Muslims would do well to remind our Christian friends of this emphasis on one God here in Mark chapter 12, verse number 29. And now we come to whose son is the Messiah in Mark chapter 12, verse 35. So reading, and I'm finishing this up quickly, and then I come to your questions and comments. While Jesus was teaching in the temple courts, he asked, why do the teachers of the law say that the Messiah is the son of David? David himself, speaking by the Holy Spirit, declared, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. David himself calls him Lord. So how then can he be a son? The large crowd listened to him with delight. Now, our Christian friends use this passage to say, see, look, Jesus is acknowledging that David called Jesus his Lord in advance. Now, there are two problems with that line of argumentation. The first problem is that the passage says, the Lord said to my Lord, yes, in the English translation, but in the Hebrew it's different. It's Yahweh said to Mari. And Mari is a different word meaning Lord. This is in the Aramaic, apparently, where this can mean like a human master, a human master who's called Lord, as opposed to Yahweh, Adonai. So this is Yahweh said to Mari, and one is called Yahweh, the other one is not. And so this Mari, my Lord. So if Jesus, if let's say David is looking forward to Jesus, who will be his son from his line, great grandson, that is, but at the same time, he will be so great that he will be superior to David, so David could call him my Lord in that way, but not my Lord, my God. It's my Lord as a human type of master, so that if David were to be in the presence of Jesus, David would, be humbled before him because Jesus will have the superior status. So that's one possible, one way of explaining this. But so that's the first problem, that it does not really prove that what our some of our Christian friends are trying to prove by it. They're trying to prove a Trinitarian perspective that Jesus is God, and therefore that's why David would have to refer to him as my Lord. The second problem with that line of argumentation is that now it is well known that David did not write this psalm. This is, according to David Mitchell, for example, in the 3-volume commentary on the Psalms in the Anchor Bible series. This is said by the court poet. So, there's a court poet, and you have the king, and the court poet is writing beautiful poetry in praise of the king. So when the court poet is writing this, the court poet is saying, my Lord, that is Yahweh, said to my Lord, that is David. So David here is called my Lord. And who is calling him my Lord? It is the court poet who is calling David his Lord. It's not that David is calling the future Messiah the Lord. So that's the second problem with this. And since now scholars know this, then Jesus, as a prophet of God, would have known as well that this psalm is not written by David, written by the court poet, and he would not be using the psalm in this particular way. So the whole argument becomes problematic where the Christian missionary is trying to prove to Muslims that Jesus was claiming divinity at this particular point. Okay, we're getting to the end now. Just about 5 verses were left in this chapter in 2 sections. First section, a warning against the teachers of the law. Verse number 38. As he taught, Jesus said, watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely. Well, we can all take a warning from that. And, Muslim leaders often wear long robes as well, and we are treated with honor and respect among people, but we should watch and be careful that we are just and fair, especially to the widows. And the Quran often, speaks about the widows and the orphans and so on, and enjoins upon Muslims to take care of them. So we must do that. Otherwise, these very leaders will be punished severely by God. May God save us all. Okay, and the final section, starting with verse number 41. Okay, so we have actually another 4 verses to go. I overlooked that. Okay, but this is short and will be done soon. And I'll come to your questions and comments. Okay. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasure than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all that she had to live on. So this shows that when we give charity, we should give according to our means, and and we should evaluate. If we were to evaluate, I mean, we're not the judges, but if we were to evaluate one person giving charity a large amount, but vast resources, they have a lot more than what they give. Another person giving just the 2 cents, but that's all they have. Well, we should value that 2 cents because that is coming from out of the sincerity and utter devotion and dedication from that person. That's all the person has, and the person is giving all of that in the way of God. And when we ourselves give charity, we should think about it. Are we giving a reasonable sum that reflects really the bounties that God has given to us, or are we giving just a meager bit, like we're giving 2 cents out of the 2 million, as opposed to giving the 2 cents out of the 2 cents? And may God guide us to obey Him and to worship Him and to give charity in a way that is most pleasing to Him. So that brings me to the end of my discussion on Mark chapter 12, verse in the New International Version. And of course, much of what we said will apply to most English English translations of the Bible today, but I was reading from the New International Version. I now go back to the chat here to see what questions and comments you have, and then to see just who is here with me today. So, thank you all for being here, and in terms of sharing the post, when I last looked, Muhammad Ali had shared it, and now we see that Lagar Traore has shared it as well. And I thank you all. I thank you all for doing that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and reward you handsomely for dunya wal akhirah. Okay, so looking at your comments now, who is here? I see that Bang Zamoro, Jihad Fi Sabilillah from the Philippines is here, and Sarah Kamar, and to all of those who said salam, I'm like Sister Lubika, Brother Faisal is here saying audio no problem, alhamdulillah. So, and Abdul Malik was saying that the audio is misbehaving. I hope it has been fixed now, and then Faisal was saying it's okay now. I hope that, and Fuad was also saying the voice is not clear and is very shaky. I wish I'd paid more attention to that earlier on. And Sarah Kamar was saying as well, the voice is interrupting, something wrong. We can hear you, but there is some gurgling sound along. Okay, and Faisal said that as if the microphone is being directly blown by a fan. And I don't see anything happening here. But Sarah assures that we can understand him though. Okay, so Fuad says the video is good, the sound is not good, it's staticky. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, I wish I had paid closer attention to your comments at that time and then tried to maybe go out and come back in. Perhaps something is wrong with the connection. Otherwise, I have exactly the same connection as always. But let's make the best we can of it now, because now I've done the whole presentation. I'm just dealing with your comments and questions now. So first of all, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, and thank you for being here. And thank you for enduring this difficulty with the sound. And I hope that next time we do this, this will not recur, but next time I'll try to pay attention to the comments earlier on, just in case. Okay, so to all of you who said salam, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and now I'll try to identify your questions. So Lena, Brother Faisal, Sister Lubika, Abdul Malik, Fuad, Sister Sarah, and to all of you, I really apologize for this difficulty, and Brother Fuad. Okay, so now, getting to your questions. Hamidu says, hello Dr. Shabir, my question is although irrelevant to today's topic, but I'm very interested in what would be its answer. We all know that usury and interest is forbidden in Islam, but what if I borrow money from a bank and invest it in a project and subsequently pay back the bank according to the terms and conditions prescribed beforehand, even though I'm not the one eating the usury or interest? Is it still forbidden? Thanks in advance. Okay, so this is not an easy question to answer, because the traditional answer would have been that it's haram even to take the loan, and the traditional answer does not really distinguish between the giving and the taking, but the European Fatwa Council has distinguished between giving and taking, especially when it comes to the one buying a house, which they consider to be a haja, a necessity, a need, a haja, a need, not a necessity, not a darura, and they say that you can borrow the money to buy the house because you need that, and that's one of the basic needs of people, and Muslims cannot be deprived of that. And one of the justifications for that fatwa is they say that there is this distinction between giving and taking. Taking is absolutely haram. This is condemned in the Quran again and again. But giving is prohibited only because it is like the flip side of taking, because if nobody's giving, nobody can take. So somebody's taking it, that's haram. You're giving it to them. You're making it possible for them to do the haram, which is to take it. But of course, with that distinction in mind, it is clear that somebody may be forced to give, meaning that you are in that situation, you cannot help it. So then you give. But the one who is taking is not forced to taking. Who is taking, forcing him to take the money? They're forcing the debtor to pay up. So they made that concession that way, and it's clear to me that the concession applies to people who are in that situation of need. They need a loan for the house, for the car, for the education, and so on. Now, to invest, the scholars have not. I haven't found scholars to give this permission for the matter of investment, as you have pointed out. But I see your point that what is condemned in the Quran is the taking of the interest. And so the one who is taking it, the one who is eating it, that is the one who is condemned. In Hadith, it is expanded to say, the one who gives it, the one who takes it, the one who writes the contract, the two witnesses, all of them will be condemned as a result. So take that as the two sides of the issue here, and weigh it and come to your own understanding. Okay, Saleh saying something in another language. Sorry about that. I am unable to read or to understand what you're saying, so please forgive me for that. And Fuad, yes, Fuad, you were so concerned you wanted somebody to call and let me know, but my phone, I don't even know where my phone is at the moment. Okay, so Faisal was saying, okay, maybe his phone is on silent, and yeah, that probably is the case. So sorry to all of you for that, and Farhan is also saying some sound issues, stay always blessed. And Rana Rahman, phone sounds not clear, making noise. I'm so sorry that you have all had to endure this, and Faisal was saying unplug and replug the mic. So, but I think if I do that, I may lose the connection altogether. I'm not really sure. So let's endure it for a few more minutes and see if we can at least get through this for today. And my apologies next time, inshallah. But let me try that. So this is, I'm going to unplug. Let me see where it is. Settings. I think I know what may have happened here. This stream. Stream settings on. So it may be that in the settings I failed to select my preferred microphone, and it may have been defaulting to the microphone that comes with my video cam. Maybe that's what it is. So how to fix it now? I don't know. So sorry about that, but please bear with me, and let's finish this. Okay. No, I don't even know how to get back to the here. Okay. So I can see now. Okay, is there a place where I could actually fix that? I went to settings, but I couldn't find the place to select the microphone, like which is the microphone that I'm using. All right. So, and Sarah is saying that at first the sound was clear. And Roy Fisher saying salam alaikum salam to you all. Okay. Okay, Faisal saying, unrelated question, is crab meat halal? If yes, why? Someone told me that if it lives in the water and on the land, it is not halal, but others say it is halal. I looked this up some time ago, and I thought the answer was that it is permissible, but let me look it up one more time. So, quoteislam.net is saying, yes, crab is halal and there's no reason to worry about it. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, so those who are saying it's not halal, you know why? It may be because they are from the Hanafi school. So let me see, Darul Iftar Birmingham, which is from the Hanafi school. Answer, in the name of Allah, most gracious, the Hanafi madhab. In the Hanafi madhab, fish is the only seafood that is halal to consume. Therefore, crab will not be permitted according to Hanafis. However, there are other views within the Hanafi school that suggest prawns, crabs, and lobster and other foodstuffs in the sea not considered to be fish are in fact considered to be part of the category of fish from a linguistic perspective. Maulana Shafir Zanvi rahimahullah has said it is permissible to consume prawns. So the same would apply to crab. The game of the sea and its eating is being made lawful for you according to Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 96, and so on. Okay, so then you see that the ones who might be saying that crabs are haram, those would be from the Hanafi perspective. From their perspective, only the fish is halal, not the other sea creatures. Others say that it is, even within the Hanafi school, some say that it is permissible as well. So you have that variety of opinion there, and may Allah guide us to that which is best. So, okay. All right, so that brings me to all of the end of all of the comments. I thank you all for being here with me and for enduring this difficulty with the sound. I hope that next time, inshallah, I will be careful to select the right microphone from the beginning, and hopefully you will get a better sound. And if not, at least I'll pay attention to the comments very early, so that if there is a problem, I will be alerted to it very early by your kind alert, and then I'll try to fix it or restart, go back out, come back in, and so on. So in the meantime, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you all, keep you in good health and happiness, protect all of the people around you, and I look forward to seeing you again next week, God willing, same time. And in fact, next week, I think that next week I will pause from presenting the usual video, because I will be preparing for a debate coming up with Chris Date during that week. So please excuse me next week. I will not have the usual live post on Sunday, but watch out for my debate with Chris Date, which will probably be on the Wednesday following. And that'll be in the evening. That'll be a debate on the question, does the New Testament teach that Jesus is God? So join me for that, inshallah. And in the meantime, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you all and bless you all. And again, sorry for the sound issues today. Next time, inshallah, we should not have that issue. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with you all. Keep making dua for me. And in advance, Ramadan Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.